Hello everyone, and welcome to this kind of extremely important video. So this game, my first of a three-part series covering the 3 microtransactions experiments that are currently happening for RuneScape 3. And if you're not familiar with RuneScape 3, it is a game that is both absolutely incredible, but it's also been plagued by predatory, gambly microtransactions that have completely destroyed and tarnished the reputation of the game, potentially even beyond repair. But for the first time ever, Jagex is open to reducing and removing a lot of these different microtransaction systems, and that is what this video is going to be about. This is a massive opportunity for the RuneScape 3 player base, both active and people that maybe used to play RuneScape, or maybe they like watching RuneScape creators, people that used to love the game and were driven away by it, to make their voices heard and guide Jagex in a direction that might lead us to a better future for the game. Before we head into the studio, I have one quick ask for you. If you care about the future of RuneScape whatsoever, and you have any kind of opinions about the microtransactions that, in my opinion, have completely destroyed the reputation of our game, click on the link in the description down below and fill out the survey that Jagex has posted. This is what they're using primarily to collect feedback to help guide them on their direction moving forward. And I think this is a rare opportunity for the community to make their voices heard. So with that said, let's get into the deep dive where I'll be covering everything that is said in this news post, and I'll also be going through the survey in its entirety. With that said, I hope you all enjoy the video, and let's head in to the studio. About a month ago, RuneScape came out with a bombshell announcement stating that there are plans to remove and reduce predatory microtransactions from RuneScape for a number of reasons, including one that I thought was really interesting from the CEO's words himself, which is that the reputation of RuneScape 3 has been tainted by their microtransactions over the years, which I think many of us would agree is 100% correct and a bit of a truth nuke, especially coming from the CEO, especially considering in Jagex's history, usually microtransactions are the one thing that almost never get talked about or discussed. And if you're reading between the lines on Jagex financial statements and things like that have come out, microtransaction revenue is down year over year. So it kind of feels like this model and this sort of monetization for the game is not working particularly well, because not only is it funding the game as well as it was every previous year, but on top of that, it is something that we know drives players away and prevents the game from acquiring as many new players as it would. So with that huge announcement out of the way, they've also said that there are going to be 3 experiments, and this is the first of those 3 that is currently live in the game right now. And in this first experiment, Treasure Hunter has been completely disabled for 1 week. Before we get into this and I talk about everything that's changed and my opinion on it, I also wanted to say that I've linked this entire news post in the description down below, and I would strongly recommend making your voice heard on this. In the last 10 years, I don't think there's been a single opportunity like this one to actually make my voice heard and possibly have an impact on the future of the game, and that is in part why I'm actually making another video on something like microtransactions, something that I would also usually steer pretty clear of. Our first MTX experiment on the path to permanent change for the game is on the way, and it's time to test out disabling Treasure Hunter. Treasure Hunter will be deactivated from July 22nd to July 28th, 2025. During this time, keys will not be usable or purchasable, and in place of Treasure Hunter, a limited supply of bonus XP bundles will be available in the store. Something else I wanted to mention here is that if you have daily keys that you would have usually gotten or earned or possibly you paid for in a premier package, you're actually going to get these at the end of the week. And I think this is probably for legal reasons. I would assume that if they're selling you bonus keys every day, they can't actually just completely turn off Treasure Hunter and also not give you the thing that you paid for. So that kind of makes sense to me. It feels like a bit of a weird qualifier. It's like tucked away in the very, very bottom of the FAQ, which kind of makes sense. But yeah, I do believe at the end of this week, people are just all going to get a bunch of Treasure Hunter keys. But alas, I've got to say, it was pretty cool opening up the Jagex launcher, logging in, and not being immediately barraged by a Treasure Hunter pop-up that I usually either have to click on and spin, or more often than not, I just close out of completely. And instead, we log in, and look at that, we're just in the game. Feels pretty good. To begin, there's a section titled, "What are we trying to learn?" Our main goal of this experiment is to provide us a tangible picture of what RuneScape 3 without Treasure Hunter looks like. While the main focus of this test is Treasure Hunter, this also gives us a great opportunity to get a read on interest and feedback on XP benefits that directly encourage gameplay. We're conscious that we've got a growing part of our player base who have less time to play, and in surveys have signaled the importance of some ability to speed up progression for the game to realistically fit into their life. As bonus XP and XP buffs still require participating in the core gameplay loops of RuneScape, we're exploring some level of availability here, while respecting our commitments to approach MTX in a way that is healthier for the game and not being more aggressive in offering XP benefits outside of the core game loop. What they're really describing here is the difference between bonus XP and direct XP. When a player gets a direct XP lamp, they're actually completely skipping the game. They can train a skill without interacting with the economy, and I'll use prayer as an example. If you get a prayer XP lamp worth 100,000 experience, now that's 100,000 XP that you don't need to get and you don't need to interact with the economy to get. So those are 100,000 XP worth of bones that you're not buying from someone that killed a monster or a boss, and instead you've just circumvented the gameplay loop completely. The difference between that and what's being shifted to here in this experiment is bonus XP does not circumvent the gameplay loop, it just reduces it. And in that same example, if you get 100,000 bonus XP in prayer, you still need to purchase bones and train your prayer skill in order to burn through that XP. And in that sense of the word, it is a lot healthier for the game and for the economy to offer bonus XP instead of direct XP. To do this, we'll be launching capped purchases of bonus XP and knowledge bomb bundles into the marketplace for the duration of the experiment. These will be removed when Treasure Hunter returns at the end. So first off, let's talk about the setup. They've definitely started this first experiment by doing something pretty punchy, which is completely removing Treasure Hunter for a week. And I've seen a lot of chatter online that maybe it should have been more than a week, maybe it should have been a month. And of course, there's always the thought that people who like to spend a lot of time interacting with Treasure Hunter or like to spend a lot of money on Treasure Hunter may not interact with this and also may not have any issues not interacting with this because they know that Treasure Hunter is going to be back at the end of the week and they'll be able to get back to spinning. With those caveats in place though, they have removed Treasure Hunter for this week, and they are looking for lots of feedback on exactly how that feels as a player. And I think it's really important to be honest with ourselves here, because while a lot of people don't like Treasure Hunter, and a lot of people don't seem to like microtransactions in RuneScape, and I'm definitely one of those people, I also know a lot of players enjoy and like to use Treasure Hunter, especially things like free spins, every single day. So I think feedback for them on how it feels to play the game without that, is the game better, is the game worse, do you feel more or less pressure to play, and do you get more and less enjoyment out of playing? Those are all really important questions to ask, and they all crop up in this survey that's coming up. So with that said, let's talk about what's actually being sold as a replacement for Treasure Hunter. And there are two things that are on the screen right now. The first thing are star bundles. Stars provide a permanent stock of bonus XP for the skill you use them on, and as you can see here, each day you can purchase one small, one medium, and one large star bundle at the following prices. I'll put the converted US and Canadian prices on screen as well to be conscious of the people from those places, but the small star bundle is £1.79, the medium star bundle is £4.99, and the large star bundle is £9.99. On a skill that's level 99, this is about 1.5 or 1.6 million bonus XP in total for a total price of around £17. Moving down from that, we've also got the Knowledge Bomb bundles. Knowledge Bomb bundles provide a universal 1.5x experience per 1 hour per small Knowledge Bomb. And per day, you can get a grand total of 18 Knowledge Bombs, which is also 18 hours a day of 1.5x experience for a total price of just under £30. Both of these offerings are related to bonus XP as opposed to direct XP, so in both of these instances, you are spending money to progress faster and level up faster, but you're also not able to skip the economy or skip your traditional gameplay loop. So if you're a player that has only ever used proteins and only ever used lamps to train, which is actually a fairly significant portion of the player base, as crazy as that is to say, you will no longer be able to do that or play this way with either of these bundles, because once you've got your bonus XP or your knowledge bombs, you still need to go out and train your skills using the game the way that it was intended. Outside of those specific thoughts, I definitely like to see that these are limited, because I know for Treasure Hunter, I've heard stories of people dropping an absolutely insane amount of money on keys in a single sitting or a single day. Like, I'm talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but more importantly than that for me, the fact that Treasure Hunter, where you're more or less gambling, and it is designed a little bit at least to be kind of addicting in nature, and to replace that with getting exactly what you're paying for is already a massive, massive win in my books. But another really important component of this is all of these bundles are capped per day, which means there's a maximum amount of paid progression you can provide your account on any given day. And while the Knowledge Bomb bundles will get you 18 hours of 1.5x XP, which is probably a little overtuned for my liking, in terms of the Fallen Stars, you could burn through that amount of XP on a high-level account very quickly, and at that point, you are completely MTX'd out. There is nothing you can do to speed up your progression. So for all of those reasons, I do think this system is better than Treasure Hunter, but I also know for a lot of people, it may not be far enough or good enough, or for a lot of others, it might be too little too late. And while I agree with the sentiment that this should have happened a long time ago, and I certainly wish it had happened a long time ago because I think the game would be in a much better place had that been the case, At the same time, the best time to have done it would have been 10 years ago or 12 years ago, or, never come out with microtransactions like Treasure Hunter in the first place. But the second best time to make that change is the second you realize it's a problem. And although that's happening way too late right now, I'm still going to say I don't think it's too little too late, and I would rather they take a swing like this to make the game better for the future than to just leave something bad and toxic and awful for the game in permanently because it's been here for a long time. So we've talked about what these bundles do, but how do you actually access them? Well, the first time you log in upon this update, you're going to see a pop-up that talks to you about the experiments and also links you to the news post. And when you open the upgrades and extras section of the game, you'll see another pop-up that states that Treasure Hunter is currently disabled. It offers you an opportunity to open up the news post and a different opportunity to open up the marketplace, which I'm going to do right now just to show you what it looks like. Upgrades and extras, and let's head in to the marketplace. Okay, and now that we're in the marketplace, you can see what we currently have available, and it's exactly what was listed on the website. So we've got our 3 prismatic star packs and our 3 knowledge bomb packs. And then from there, if we want to buy ourselves a pack, we can go here, click on it, and then click view offer. I will say this isn't the most elegant of purchase experiences, considering we have to prove that we're not a robot, and now all of a sudden we're on an external website, so there's no buying anything from within the game. As someone that is pretty anti-microtransactions, I actually like that there are a couple steps in order to make a purchase on RuneScape. Psychologically, it has been proven, and there's really good data to support that the easier it is to make a purchase, the more likely someone is to make that purchase. And that's why websites like Amazon have one-click ordering, or in some cases, instant ordering. So the second you're looking at something in a single click with no thought at all, you've got something packaged up and shipping to your house. So even though this current setup where you've got to click on a thing to click on another thing to get to a website feels a little behind the times, I actually don't mind it. And I especially think it isn't necessarily a bad thing to have to go through a bit of a process in order to make a purchase. And once the page loads up, you can see all of the offerings here. Something else that I noticed here as well is when you do something like adding a stack of 10 small knowledge bombs into your cart, what's going to happen here is you can't also buy the other ones. Instead, the default option isn't purchase package and add them all up, it's actually change package. And because of this, this is another step that you'd have to go through if you want to actually clear out the shop and buy one of each. And I was kind of interested by that choice. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but effectively what you'd have to do if you wanted to buy all 3 is make 3 separate purchases. Outside of that, there's a statement here about how to give feedback, and we've gone over it before, but I'm going to read through it because I do think it is important. It reads, "Your voice is crucial to every experiment. We need to know directly how these changes impact you, whatever your perspective and what you think is right or wrong about what we're trying. The best way to give us your thoughts are through our survey, which will open the same day as the experiment begins. Look out for a news post with a link on July 22nd. Not the survey type? All good. Head on over to the official Reddit thread and Discord channel and share your thoughts and participate in discussions with the community. Whether you're watching from the sidelines or actively playing, please do let us know what you think. Thanks for helping us find a better future of the game together." And then there is a fairly lengthy FAQ section that you're welcome to read through, but I didn't think there was anything in here that was especially important to cover, so I will not be covering it in this video. With that out of the way, let's get into the survey. Now, I'm not going to fill out the survey a second time because I've already done it once, but I do have a video of me filling it out for the first time, so we can go through what some of the questions were, and you can also see what some of my answers were in case you're wondering how I feel about microtransactions, which to me, this is a very personal thing. Different people will feel different ways about it, and I also want to say I respect and value everyone's opinion. So whether you agree with me or not, I think it's important that we make our voices heard. I think RuneScape's in a pretty tough spot here, especially with old school absolutely booming, where they've had the complete opposite business model in terms of being a very player first, very player focused, very community driven game. And meanwhile, I think the microtransactions in RuneScape 3 in part have completely taken away its opportunity to be up there with old school as the biggest MMO in the world. But with that said, I think over the years, RuneScape 3 has driven away the kind of players that really hate or really dislike microtransactions, and it has probably attracted a lot of players that do like and do engage in microtransactions and kind of set itself up as a bit of a more casual MMO for people that don't have a lot of time on their hands or like number go up or like to keep things simple or maybe just don't like anything hardcore. I don't know if that's the right direction for the game, and I also don't think that's really how I play, but at the same time, I do understand that while I am personally anti-microtransactions and I am making my voice heard in this survey, I know that a lot of people watching this video are not going to feel the same way I do, and I still think it's important that you take the time to fill this out so that they can better shape the game to fit the needs of their players. It's time to go through the survey, and I'm actually going to read every single question and also talk to you guys about my answers to it. So if you want to fill out the survey while you're watching the rest of the video, you are more than welcome to. The first question is a pretty simple one. It's just, how do you feel about the removal of Treasure Hunter overall? Something else I like about the survey is after each question, you also get an opportunity to fill in information into this box. So if you have a specific reason why you like or dislike something, that's pretty cool too. A good example of this is, let's say you're someone that only ever really liked to log in every day to use your daily keys. You might find this experience very negative because your reason to log in has dissipated. But that doesn't necessarily tell Jagex that you need Treasure Hunter. It might mean that you need something else that is maybe not Treasure Hunter to get you to log in every day. So that's a really good example of why this specific box is extremely helpful, because it might help them kind of parse through the data and get a better understanding of the root cause of why players feel certain ways. Second question, how do you feel the removal of Treasure Hunter has impacted your use of daily challenges? I was kind of surprised to see daily challenges mentioned second in this fairly lengthy survey with a ton of different questions, but I guess it makes sense. I have no idea what the data looks like, but maybe a ton of players just log in and crank the daily challenges and use them every single day and then use the bonus keys as well. I have no idea. That isn't personally how I play, so I dropped no change because I don't really use them anyway. But yeah, that's definitely one that some people might feel really strongly about. Next up, we've got another question about daily challenges that states, if Treasure Hunter is removed, you would no longer receive keys as rewards for daily challenges. If no changes were made to the rewards table, how would this make you feel about daily challenges? I'm the kind of person that's a little cautious about the addicting nature of Treasure Hunter specifically. I've spoken about this before, but a lot of people who are close to me in my personal life have had Treasure Hunter addictions that were like completely full blown in the past. So to me, I'm actually not a fan of the fact that daily challenges give you bonus Treasure Hunter keys, because it's basically a free way to onboard individuals into something that you could consider a form of gambling. I'm not actually a huge daily challenges guy, and I would much rather they gave you some kind of different gameplay buff if they need to exist. This next question is really important, and it asks, was there anything you missed from Treasure Hunter while it was removed that you think should be brought back in another way? As an example, other items or something to do when I log in each day. The only thing that really leapt to mind was the opportunity to earn or direct purchase cosmetics. The next question in the survey is about which of the bundles you purchased during the experiment, if you purchased any. And for me, on my Twitch stream the second this update dropped, I bought 2 of the star bundles and 1 of the knowledge bomb bundles. So that is what I selected as my answer. I also wanted to say a lot of people who are against microtransactions and think it'll be really good for the game if they're removed are going out of their way to support this shift in this experiment with their wallets. And while I am going to say I personally did this, I'm not going to say that others necessarily should too. While it is a good sign to support something with your wallet and show Jagex that yes, this is a better way and that you will support this, at the same time, I did just pay $50 to a billion-dollar company in hopes that they will listen to my opinions on microtransactions slightly more. And thinking about that and saying it out loud, I don't know how much of a difference that's gonna have. But either way, that's what I did. Definitely, like, I've seen a lot of people like flocking to like, we need to support this with our wallets. Please do not encumber yourself financially supporting this. If you're someone that would be genuinely open to purchasing stuff like this in the future, I think you should absolutely go for it. But I don't think there should be really pressure to do so in this instance. The next question was about the purchase caps and where we felt they were, both for the bomb bundles and for the star. I thought the purchase cap was just right for the fallen stars, but I did think the purchase cap was a little bit too high on the knowledge bombs, considering that is 18 hours in a day of plus 50% experience. That just feels like more than you need to necessarily be selling people every single day, especially considering the bombs are bankable. Yeah, to me, the bombs were way, way, way too high. If it were me, I would sell a max of like 4 or 5 per day. And you know what? If you want to bank them for a long time and hold on to them and pop them all at once, that seems totally fine by me. But 18 hours seemed really, really high to me. They also had specific questions about if you thought things should be unlimited, limited, or not purchasable at all. And I think this is going to be a really interesting one, because this should help them create a distinction between the people that are open to bonus XP being purchased and the players, perhaps players that don't even play the game anymore or were driven away from the game, and if those players maybe feel like none of this stuff should be purchasable whatsoever, which is also super valid. And then they've got a question here about how the following items impacted my enjoyment of the game in general. So to me, I said the stars didn't impact my game positively or negatively, and I thought the knowledge bombs detracted ever so slightly. Because I feel like if I cared about skilling, and I did a lot of skilling with knowledge bombs, and then they ran out, I would either feel pressure to buy more knowledge bombs in order to like not get less happy chemicals for number go up, or even worse in my eyes, I maybe wouldn't want to play once I'd run out of knowledge bombs. And I don't think that's necessarily ideal either. Bonus XP stars, I'm actually kind of cool with, and I think they're infinitely better than lamps, so to me, it is definitely the lesser of two evils. And then below that, there's also an info box where I was able to put in exactly how I felt and what I just described earlier, where I was happy with the stars and a little less happy about the bombs. And then this next question is very pointed. Do you prefer having Treasure Hunter or bonus XP stars and knowledge bomb bundles in the game? So you can go strongly prefer, slightly prefer, none, prefer Treasure Hunter, strongly prefer Treasure Hunter, and I don't think either should be available. For me, I put strongly prefer bonus XP stars and knowledge bomb bundles. I also thought about putting I don't think either should be available because I think in a perfect world for me, like my own personal version of RuneScape wouldn't have either of them. But I also think you do need to cater to the needs of your player base. And at this point, the people who are playing RuneScape 3 are time pressed in a lot of ways. And I know for a lot of players, they've chosen RuneScape 3 specifically because there is paid progression, as crazy as that is to say out loud. So to me, it makes a lot more sense to first get rid of the gambling and get rid of the stuff that ruins the economy. And then once you've made that massive step of getting rid of the gambling and getting rid of the predatory microtransactions like Treasure Hunter, from that point on, I'd love to see this revisited and then perhaps you can dial it back again. But I think if you do it in one big step, you're probably alienating more of the player base than you want to. At the same time, though, I think both of these answers are very valid. The next question was, how do you feel this experiment impacted your overall gameplay experience? And I said a little bit better. I'm not really a player that cares a lot about XP, and I think it's going to take a long time for me to begin to care about XP again if the Treasure Hunter and Predatory MTX were removed. I have such a bad relationship with Treasure Hunter where it leaves such a bad taste in my mouth. And I've talked about this before in other videos and on podcasts where I genuinely avoid playing my main and streaming my main and making videos on my main account because I feel bad that the idea of me playing my main could get someone into RuneScape, and then that someone getting into RuneScape could end up having a bad reaction or a negative interaction with the microtransactions that this game has. And beyond that feeling, it's also completely made skilling feel valueless to me. Like, I don't even play when it's double XP weekend anymore because it just kind of feels like, what's the point? I'm going to passively get 200 mil in every single skill over time just by merely existing. So yeah, to me, it should be much better, and I was expecting it would feel much better, but it honestly only felt a bit better just because I am so disenchanted with how skilling works in RuneScape right now. But I could see this changing over time. The next question at the top of the screen here was, would these changes, if made, impact how much you played RuneScape? And I said it would not change how often I play because I play an absolute ton. I don't think I have time to be online any more than I currently am, so wouldn't really make a huge difference with that regard. But then this was a really big one, and this is something that I've talked about a lot too before, which is, and still thinking about if the changes of this experiment were made permanently, how would this impact how likely you would be to recommend playing RuneScape to a friend? And to me, even though acceleration and progress might be a little bit slower for a lot of people, I would be a lot more likely to recommend a game to friends that I feel is monetized in a way that is ethical. So for me personally, this is like probably the biggest thing and the biggest reason why these microtransactions changes could lead to a lot of growth to the game. I recently went on the Sebe podcast, which if you're not an old school person, it's one of the big old school podcasts. And Sater was super, super nice. It was an awesome conversation. It was like 3 hours long. It was sick. It was so friendly. It was so cool to kind of go behind enemy lines and talk about RuneScape and talk about the game that I've been playing forever and that I care so deeply about. But one of the things that came up there is I kind of approached the idea of being a RuneScape 3 person by kind of validating the idea that for a lot of old school players, the only thing that you know about RuneScape 3 is 1, the combat is weird and hard, and 2, the microtransactions are bad. And yeah, he basically confirmed that's pretty much the extent of what a lot of old school people know about RuneScape 3. If you get rid of the microtransactions and you make them a lot less bad, that is like one of the 2 big knocks on the game already gone, and that might make it a lot more appealing to new players and lapsed players who are coming back after a long break or considering what they want to do with their time and with their money. The next question was, how much do you agree or disagree with the following statements about the potential changes from this experiment? They talked about making the game feel more balanced, more fair. They make it feel too hard. I trust Jagex when making updates to the game. They make the game feel too grindy. I like the direction RuneScape is going in, and I trust the RuneScape developers when making updates to the game. I had to put a disagree on the I trust Jagex when making updates to the game point just because of things like the Hero Pass that I think have done so much damage to the game and should have never gone out the door. You could say the same thing about the payment options survey from 5 or 6 months ago. There are just occasionally things that come out the door that it's just like, how is it possible that this made it out? So yeah, definitely some instances there where I had to throw it on a disagree, but I do feel like this specific instance with microtransactions and the way that it's being approached has been good and has been really well communicated so far. So that's why it's a disagree disagree and not a strongly disagree. It's like the super, super, super most cautious amount of optimism, but yeah, I could see a lot of people putting one in a strongly disagree there. I also put an agree on I like the direction RuneScape is going in, and I also threw in I trust the RuneScape developers when making updates to the game on agree. I didn't put it in strongly agree because I do think that some things do come out that are a little out of touch, but definitely if you're asking me who I trust more between like Jagex as an entity and the developers, I'm definitely going to trust the developers more. Then there was a feedback bubble where I put on the subject of the question, they make it too difficult to achieve the levels I need for other content. If 110 skills were balanced around MTX, I would be very open to the XP rates of the new 110 methods being rebalanced, assuming Treasure Hunter is removed completely. So that's kind of my way of saying that if people feel like the game is too hard without MTX, maybe the game was balanced around MTX, and maybe once MTX is gone, it would be worth looking at some other methods of gaining XP in the game and possibly doing a rebalance. Because if the main issue with removing this predatory microtransactions is some people feel like the game is too slow, or maybe the game is slower than it should have been because it was designed with MTX in mind, just do a big ol' rebalance, call it a game health update, and call it a day. And then there were just a bunch of questions about your general total level, how many years you've been playing, what kind of membership you have, what account you primarily play, what your total level is, and also a question about how many hours you have spent on RuneScape, where of course for me, I am unfortunately or fortunately in the 30 hours a week or more group. And last but not least, there was one final info box for you to give any other feedback that you would like to share. And in this one, I said, I'm glad this new approach is being investigated. While it may not be far enough for some, I think it will be enough to bring back many players and help the long-term growth of the game. Appreciate the survey and how this has been handled so far. And that is the end of the microtransactions experiment number 1. So, with that said, and with that out of the way, what do you guys think? I'd love to see your comments in the comment section down below. Oh, and while I've got you guys here and thinking about the comment section down below, I did want to mention that there is a Locked It episode coming. It is the final episode of the series, and it is currently over 3 hours long. I think with edits and stuff getting cut out and everything else, it'll probably end up being about 2 hours long, but if you were wondering why it's been a bit of a gap since the last episode, it is basically a feature film. This video is possibly the biggest thing that we've ever made on this channel, and trying to get that out in a couple weeks, it's been a bit of a battle. But yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys very soon for that. And of course, I will continue to follow up on all of these MTX experiments as they continue. But possibly even more importantly than that, we've got the Amasket boss coming out real soon. And I cannot wait to see you guys over on Twitch for the World First Race if you're into such things, and seeing lots of videos on this channel during launch week. With that said, thank you all so much for watching. I also really just wanted to say I appreciate the support on videos like this where I'm literally reading a news post and going through a survey. I know it's a lot more boring than a lot of the content I usually make, but this is one that is really near and dear to my heart, and I think it's really important to use my platform to make my voice heard and hopefully empower others to do the same. So with that said, thank you all so much, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you very soon for the next video.